All right, so are these damn university rankings worth a shit, or are they just some big circle jerk? Everyone's always going on about those QS World University rankings, but are they legit? I mean, are they really legit, or just a giant fucking scam? That's what we're going to find out today. We're doing a deep dive into this whole QS mess.
Oh, it's a lot more fucked up than you think.
All right, well, let's cut the crap and just get into it. So where the hell did this QS thing even come from?
QS started back in like 1990, and the idea was basically just to help students, who wanted to study abroad, help them figure out the application process and, which schools are good, pretty basic stuff.
This is pretty fucking boring.
Yeah, it was. But then they got all ambitious and like partnered up with Times Higher Education in 2004 to create these rankings. You can think of it like a popularity contest for universities. Who's got the bigger dick?
So they were like in cahoots for a while.
For a bit, but it was a messy relationship, and they split up in 2009, went their separate ways, started doing their own rankings.
Classic divorce. So what's the deal with these QS World University rankings? Like, what are we talking about here?
Basically, imagine a giant spreadsheet ranking like over 1,400 universities from like over 100 different countries. It's a global pissing contest. And they use 6 key factors to, decide who's top dog. And each one of those factors is a whole rabbit hole of bullshit.
All right, well, hit me with the factors. What the fuck are they looking at?
So first up, you've got academic reputation. This counts for like a whopping 40% of the score. They ask a bunch of academics, who do you think is the best? Sounds legit, right?
Sure, why not ask the nerds who spend all their time locked away in ivory towers? What could go wrong?
Well, the thing is, academics can be pretty petty,
Yeah.
They're all competing for grants and publications and tenure, so their opinions might be just a little bit biased.
Yeah, it's like asking a bunch of high schoolers who the coolest kid in school is.
Exactly. Plus, there are some serious methodological flaws with how they collect this data, but we'll get into that later. For now, let's move on to the next factor, which is faculty to student ratio. And that one's worth 20%.
So more teachers per student equals a better education.
I mean, that's the idea, but it's not that simple. A low ratio could mean smaller class sizes, maybe more individual attention, but it doesn't guarantee good teaching. Some professors are great with small groups, and others are just fucking awkward and uncomfortable.
Yeah, sometimes you just end up with more assholes to deal with. Okay, what else?
Okay, so next up, we've got citations per faculty, also worth 20% of the score. This one looks at how much research a university's academics are publishing, and how often that research is cited by other people in their field. Sounds good in theory, right? Publish or perish.
Yeah, got to get your name out there. Make sure everyone knows how smart you are.
Yeah. Right, but here's the thing. Not all citations are created equal. A citation in some prestigious peer-reviewed journal carries a lot more weight than a citation in like some obscure online publication. Plus, this metric favors certain fields like the hard sciences, where publishing is a lot more frequent.
So they're basically screwing over the humanities and social sciences?
Pretty much, yeah. They're not churning out research papers at the same rate, so their citation counts are going to be naturally lower. It's not exactly an even playing field.
That's fucked up. Okay, so what's the next one?
All right, next we have employer reputation, which makes up 10% of the ranking. They ask employers which universities they prefer to hire from.
I mean, that makes sense. They want the best and the brightest, right? But how the hell do employers actually keep track of where all their employees went to school? I mean, they're not all obsessed with university rankings. They got better things to do.
You're right. It's kind of a ridiculous metric. Plus, it's super subjective. What one employer considers a valuable skill, another might not give a shit about. There's no way to actually standardize that.
All right, so we're 4 for 6. What are the last two?
The last two are all about internationalization, each worth 5% of the total score. So they look at the ratio of international faculty and international students. The idea is that a more diverse campus, equals a richer, more global learning experience.
Yeah, it sounds like a bunch of bullshit. More people to party with, maybe, but
Yeah.
does it actually mean you get a better education? I don't know about that.
I mean, it's debatable. It might make for a more, cosmopolitan atmosphere, but it doesn't actually mean the teaching or the research is any better. It's all about appearances more than substance.
So those are the 6 main factors they're using for these global rankings.
Yeah.
And it sounds pretty convoluted already.
Yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
All right, so we've pretty much established that these global rankings are just one giant circle jerk for universities with big egos and even bigger research budgets. But it gets worse, right?
Oh yeah, way worse. They basically took a big, steaming pile of bullshit and decided to spread it around even more. See, on top of the main world ranking, QS also does separate rankings for different regions, like Asia, Latin America, the Arab region, even Europe now.
Wait, so they're just like slicing and dicing the same data over and over again? What's the fucking point of that?
It's all about marketing and branding. You know, they want to create as many different ranking lists as possible so they can sell them to universities and governments and anyone else who's dumb enough to buy into this crap. And get this, the regional rankings often use different weightings for the criteria, and they throw in some extra factors just to, spice things up.
So it's like a pissing contest inside another pissing contest. Sounds like a whole lot of piss to me.
It's enough to make you wonder if anyone at QS has ever actually, stepped foot on a university campus. But wait, there's more. They also have these things called QS subject rankings, where they get even more granular. Like, they'll rank universities by specific subjects, like business, medicine, law, whatever, over 50 different fields, each with its own set of bullshit metrics.
How many fucking rankings do they need? It's like, are they trying to rank every goddamn department on the planet?
It's like they have a ranking fetish or something. And it doesn't stop there. They even rank cities based on their appeal to students. They call it the best student cities ranking.
Oh, come on. So now they're experts on urban planning and nightlife. Give me a break.
Yeah, apparently London always takes the top spot. Big surprise. They look at stuff like cost of living, safety, job opportunities, even how desirable a city is. Whatever the fuck that means.
Desirable. Sounds like they're just asking a bunch of trust fund hipsters,
Yeah.
where they like to get their avocado toast and craft beer.
It's also subjective and arbitrary. But it makes for good headlines, clickbait articles. And that's what QS is really good at, generating hype and buzz, regardless of whether any of it's actually meaningful or accurate.
So we've pretty much established that these rankings are a complete joke. But they've got to have some redeeming qualities, right? I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Well, they did try to jump on the sustainability bandwagon a couple of years ago. They added a sustainability ranking in 2022 that looks at how universities are doing on environmental and social impact.
Oh, so now they're all about saving the planet. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, it reeks of greenwashing a little bit. But hey, at least they're acknowledging that climate change and social responsibility are things. They look at factors like sustainable institutions, education research, even quality of life. It's a mixed bag.
Sounds like a lot of buzzwords and virtue signaling to me. But, hey, if it makes them feel good about themselves, who am I to judge? What else do they got up their sleeve?
Oh, they haven't forgotten about the business schools. Those guys are always swimming in cash. QS also ranks MBA programs and business master's degrees. They have separate rankings for online MBAs, executive MBAs, even specialized MBAs like finance or marketing.
So basically, if you're shelling out a shit ton of money for a degree, QS has got a ranking for you. It's a business, after all. They're not doing this for the love of education.
You got that right. It's all about the bottom line.
All right, so we've covered the basics of their ranking methodology, which is already pretty fucked up. But now let's get to the good stuff, the criticisms.
Oh yeah, this is where it gets really juicy. Despite all the fancy metrics and impressive sounding methodologies, QS has been slammed by critics, and for good reason. Let's start with those reputation surveys. Remember we talked about those earlier? Those make up a huge chunk of the ranking. But the problem is those surveys have pathetic response rates, like 2 to 8%.
2 to 8%? Are you fucking kidding me? That's a joke. It's like they're surveying a handful of people and then claiming it represents the entire academic world.
Exactly. It's statistically unreliable. And remember what we said about academics being petty and biased? Most of them only really know about their own university and maybe a few others in their specific field, so their responses are going to be super limited and skewed.
So basically the whole academic reputation score is just a bunch of academics stroking each other's egos. What a fucking circle jerk.
Pretty much. And then there's that citations per faculty metric. As we mentioned before, it favors certain fields and can be easily manipulated. Universities that prioritize quantity over quality of publications can game the system by publishing in predatory journals. The ones that have low standards and often charge fees to publish.
So it's not just about how much you publish, but where you publish.
Right, and QS doesn't seem to care about that distinction at all. They're just looking at the raw numbers. Which brings us to another major criticism, the whole faculty-to-student ratio fallacy. It sounds like it should measure teaching quality, but it actually doesn't.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Smaller classes don't always mean better teaching.
Exactly. The ratio is more about research intensity. A university could have a great ratio, but still have professors who spend all their time in the lab, chasing grants, publishing papers with no time or inclination to actually teach.
So it's basically a useless metric for assessing the actual student experience. What a joke.
And then, of course, there's the elephant in the room. The suspicion that universities that pay QS for consulting services get preferential treatment in the rankings. It's hard to prove, but there's definitely a conflict of interest there.
Wait, are you saying these rankings might be rigged?
I'm just saying it's a possibility. There's no way to know for sure what goes on behind closed doors. But it wouldn't be the first time a ranking system was manipulated for profit.
It wouldn't be the last either. So we've got biased surveys, skewed citation metrics, and a possible pay-to-play scheme. Anything else? Or have we covered all the ways that QS is screwing this up?
Well, we've only just scratched the surface. There's a whole chorus of critics out there who are calling out QS's bullshit.
Okay, so we've heard from all the critics, and they all seem pretty pissed off about these QS rankings. But what about the students? How the hell are they supposed to deal with all this bullshit, when they're trying to figure out where to go to school?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, the sad truth is that a lot of students rely on these rankings, to make like one of the biggest decisions of their lives. They see a high ranking and think, oh, that must be a good school. I should apply there. And it's understandable. They just want like a simple way to compare different universities. But these rankings are about as useful as a screen door on a submarine.
Yeah, it's like judging a book by its cover.
Yeah.
You can miss out on some hidden gem just because it doesn't have like a shiny gold star on the front.
Exactly. And these rankings create so much unnecessary anxiety and pressure on students. It's like they feel this pressure to go to a top-ranked university to succeed in life, which is total bullshit. There are plenty of successful people out there who went to schools you've never even heard of.
Yeah, it's the same bullshit with those college prep courses and standardized tests. It's just a big fucking industry designed to exploit students and their parents.
It's a rigged game. And the students are the ones who end up paying the price. They're stressed out, sleep deprived, loaded up with debt before they even set foot on campus. It's fucked up.
And then you got the universities themselves, They get caught up in this whole ranking frenzy, too. They start prioritizing things that will boost their score, even if it doesn't actually benefit their students or their faculty.
Right, they're obsessed with, climbing up those rankings, even if it means sacrificing educational quality. It's like chasing prestige instead of substance. Classic case of the tail wagging the dog.
So what's the solution here? Do we just throw these rankings in the trash, tell everyone to go with their gut feeling?
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, these rankings do provide some information, You can't completely discount the fact that certain universities consistently rank highly. It might indicate something about their research output, maybe their global reputation, or, their ability to attract, like, top faculty and students.
So they're not entirely useless, but they shouldn't be the only thing you consider when you're making your decision.
Exactly. Don't be a sheep, people. Think for yourselves.
Right. If you're a student, think about what's important to you in a university. Do you want a small, intimate setting or a large, research-focused institution? Are you looking for a specific program, maybe a particular faculty expertise? Do you want to be in a big city or a small town? Don't let some arbitrary ranking dictate your choices.
Yeah, find the right fit, Don't chase some meaningless number. And universities need to stop obsessing over these rankings and just focus on what actually matters, you know? Providing a quality education and fostering a supportive and intellectually stimulating environment for their students and faculty.
Couldn't agree more. Now let's talk about this whole QS stars thing. What the fuck is that about?
Yeah.
Sounds like some kind of consolation prize for universities that didn't make the top 100.
It's basically a paid review system. Universities can pay QS some money and get evaluated on a whole bunch of different factors that aren't included in the main rankings. Things like facilities, innovations, social responsibility, even the strength of their individual programs.
So it's like those Yelp reviewers, who'll give you 5 stars if you slip them enough cash under the table.
Pretty much, except instead of greasy spoon diners, we're talking about institutions of higher education. And instead of just 5 stars, you can get anywhere from 0 to 5 stars, plus a little plus sign, if you're really special.
5 stars plus. Is that like getting an A+++ or something? Come on, who are they kidding?
It's all marketing. It's just a way for universities to make themselves look, more attractive to potential students and faculty. And of course, QS is happy to take their money.
What a racket. But seriously, what are they actually evaluating these universities on?
So they have these 12 categories, and universities have to choose at least 8 to be evaluated on. The first 4 are mandatory: teaching employability research and internationalization.
Sounds familiar. Like they just took those straight from the World University Rankings.
Yeah.
How original.
Exactly. And then they get to choose 4 more from a list of 8. Facilities, online learning, arts and culture, innovation, inclusiveness, social responsibility, subject ranking, and program strength. It's a real hodgepodge of criteria that doesn't really add up to anything meaningful.
And remember, this isn't a ranking, it's an evaluation. So even if you score really low in some categories, you can still get a decent overall star rating. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Pretty much. The whole thing is designed to make universities feel good about themselves and to, give them something shiny to put on their marketing brochures.
So it's basically meaningless, just a bunch of stars that don't actually represent anything.
I mean, not entirely. It does give universities a chance to showcase some of their strengths that might not be reflected in the World University Rankings. But you gotta take it all with a grain of salt, like a mountain of salt.
Exactly. Don't buy into the hype. Do your own research, visit the universities, talk to the students and faculty, and make an informed decision. Don't let some shady-ass company dictate your future. All right, that's it for our deep dive into the wonderful world of QS rankings. We've exposed the bullshit, the biases, the blatant profiteering. It's a mess, but hey, at least we had some fun along the way. Tune in next time, folks, when we'll be tackling another controversial topic. Until then, stay informed, stay skeptical, and don't let the bastards grind you down.